Somewhere in the world right now, a doctor is studying a weed. Not a drug, not a compound. A weed that grows on roadsides, in backyards, between cracks in pavement. And what they are finding is making pharmaceutical researchers pay very close attention. For most of human history, plants were the pharmacy. Every culture on Earth developed its own botanical medicine chest, and many of those remedies are now being confirmed by modern science. Some have become the basis for drugs sold at enormous markups. Others are still sitting quietly in gardens, overlooked. This video covers 6 of them. And one plant near the end of this list was reportedly carried into battle by ancient soldiers, not just for strength, but for healing. Plant number 1 is turmeric. You have probably seen it as a yellow powder in the spice aisle. But for over 4,000 years, it was medicine before it was ever a seasoning. Traditional Ayurvedic practitioners in India used turmeric to treat inflammation, digestive issues, and skin conditions. They did not need clinical trials to notice it worked. They had generations of evidence. The active compound inside turmeric is called curcumin. And this is where modern science got very interested. Studies suggest curcumin may reduce markers of inflammation in the body, which connects it to conditions ranging from joint pain to metabolic health. Some over-the-counter anti-inflammatory medications work by blocking certain inflammatory enzymes. Research indicates curcumin may target some of those same pathways, though the mechanism and potency differ significantly. What makes turmeric practical is how available it is. You can find it in any grocery store, add it to food, or take it as a supplement. One word of caution though, curcumin on its own is poorly absorbed. Combining it with black pepper significantly improves how much your body actually uses. That combination has been traditional in South Asian cooking for centuries. They knew that long before the science explained why. Plant number 2 is ashwagandha. The name alone sounds ancient because it is. This small shrub grows wild across India, North Africa, and parts of the Mediterranean. Its root has been used in traditional medicine for roughly 3,000 years. The ancient Ayurvedic classification for ashwagandha translates roughly as a plant that gives the strength of a horse. That reputation was not built on mythology alone. It was built on consistent observation across many generations of healers. Modern research has focused heavily on ashwagandha's effect on stress hormones, particularly cortisol. Several studies suggest it may help lower cortisol levels in people experiencing chronic stress. That matters because chronically elevated cortisol is linked to poor sleep, weight gain, weakened immunity, and low energy. This is where the economics become interesting. Prescription medications for anxiety and stress-related conditions are among the most frequently prescribed drugs in the world. Ashwagandha does not replace them and should never be treated as a substitute for professional care. But the fact that a plant root may support stress resilience through a measurable biological pathway is exactly why it has entered clinical conversations. And here is something that might surprise you. Ashwagandha root contains compounds called withanolides that do not appear in significant quantities in any common food. It is genuinely unusual in that sense. Plant number 3 is one almost everyone has in their kitchen right now. And yet most people have no idea how thoroughly it has been studied. Ginger has been used medicinally for over 2,000 years across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Ancient Greek physicians documented it. Medieval European traders valued it almost like currency. 1 pound of ginger in 14th century England could reportedly be traded for the equivalent of a sheep. What makes ginger medically interesting is its impact on nausea and digestion. Multiple clinical studies have explored its effectiveness for motion sickness, morning sickness during pregnancy, and nausea related to chemotherapy. The results have been notable enough that ginger extract is now studied alongside standard anti-nausea medications. Beyond nausea, Ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shagalls that have demonstrated anti-inflammatory properties in laboratory settings. Whether that translates cleanly to the same effects in the human body at typical consumption levels is still an active area of research. Before we move on, the next two plants on this list include one that was once grown exclusively inside palace walls, and one that modern athletes are beginning to take seriously. Plant number 4 was grown inside the walled gardens of Mughal emperors. It was restricted, protected, and considered a food of extraordinary value. That plant is Moringa. Moringa is a fast-growing tree native to South Asia and parts of Africa. Nearly every part of it is edible and nutritionally significant. The leaves are where the density becomes striking. Gram for gram, Moringa leaves contain more protein than most plant foods. They also contain iron, calcium, and vitamin C in concentrations that compare favorably to many supplements sold in pharmacies. For context, some studies suggest that a small serving of dried moringa powder provides more iron than spinach and more calcium than milk by weight. That is the kind of comparison that explains why aid organizations and nutrition programs in developing countries have actively promoted moringa cultivation. In traditional medicine across India, East Africa, and the Philippines, moringa has been used to address malnutrition, manage blood sugar, and support lactation in nursing mothers. Modern research is beginning to catch up with what traditional healers observed empirically. What is clear is that it is one of the most nutritionally complete plants on Earth, and it grows in poor soil with minimal water. The fact that it is not on every kitchen shelf is, to many nutritionists, a genuine mystery. Plant number 5 became one of the most searched health topics on the internet during the years of global respiratory illness concern. That plant is elderberry. The dark purple berries of the elder tree have been used in European folk medicine for centuries. Traditional healers prescribed elderberry syrup for colds, fevers, and respiratory infections. What made it famous recently is that clinical research began to examine whether those traditional uses had biological support. Several studies suggest elderberry extract may shorten the duration of cold and flu symptoms, and that it may have some impact on how certain viruses replicate in the body. The mechanisms are still being studied, but the pattern is consistent enough that elderberry supplements are now found in mainstream pharmacies worldwide, sold at prices that would have seemed extraordinary to the farmers who once simply picked the berries wild. One important note: raw elderberries contain compounds that can cause nausea. They should always be cooked or properly processed before consumption. This is one of those cases where traditional preparation knowledge matters not now. Plant number 6. This one was not carried into battle. It was placed in temples. Holy basil, known as Tulsi in South Asia, holds one of the most sacred positions in Hindu tradition. It grows in the courtyards of homes and temples across India and has been revered for over 3,000 years. But its story is not only spiritual. Tulsi has been studied for its adaptogenic properties, meaning it may help the body handle stress more efficiently. Similar to ashwagandha, but through different compounds, research has examined Tulsi's potential effects on blood sugar, immune function, and anxiety. What consistently emerges is a plant that acts on multiple body systems simultaneously, which is unusual and continues to attract scientific attention. The combination of spiritual significance, cultural longevity, and emerging clinical study makes Tulsi one of the more fascinating plants in this entire category. 6 plants, thousands of years of recorded use, and a growing body of modern science that keeps circling back to the same conclusion. The natural world developed complex chemistry long before we had laboratories to study it. Turmeric for inflammation, ashwagandha for stress, ginger for digestion, moringa for nutrition density, elderberry for immune support. Tulsi for adaptogenic balance. None of them are magic. All of them are real. Here is a question worth thinking about. Which of these plants is already part of your daily life, and which one are you now considering? If this kind of content interests you, subscribe. There is a lot more where this came from. One important note before you go. Everything in this video is educational only and not medical advice. These plants may support health in various ways, but none of them are cures, and none should replace professional medical guidance or prescribed treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your health routine. If foraging is something you explore, do not consume any plant unless it has been verified by a qualified expert. Misidentification can be genuinely dangerous.